Hello there. Welcome to another interesting and exciting episode of your favorite language podcast, the Africa Language Service Providers Podcast. My name is Grace Hamwa-Jiman, and today's episode promises to be interesting. It's going to be a bit different from the usual ones that we know because on this episode, I bring to you the people who are behind the scenes. I know that most of you hear my voice all the time, but this episode is talking to the producer of the podcast, the technical team of the podcast, and everybody who makes sure that we always bring you your podcasts. And I know you're itching to know who these people are and how they have contributed in making sure that we've had all our 12 episodes for the year. And so don't go anywhere. Stay with me. I'll be right back, and then we can get into it.
Welcome to Africa's LSP podcast, where we explore the world of translation, interpretation, and localization, as well as connect with the language industry's top players. From language service providers to the businesses and individuals who rely on their services, we'll be delving into the challenges, opportunities, and trends shaping the industry. Join us as we discover the power of language and the impact it has on connecting Africa and the world. Brought to you by Bolingo Consult, Africa's LSP podcast is the go-to podcast for all things language in Africa.
Welcome back. You are still on the Africa LSP podcast. And like I said, today's show is more like talking to the people who are behind the scenes on how they are able to get us all the juicy stuff that we get on this show. You already know me. My name is Grace Hamwa-Jiman. I'll let them do the introduction themselves so you get to know. They'll tell us their names and what they do or what they contribute to the show. So they are two gentlemen. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
My audience and myself are itching to get to know you. So tell us your names and the roles you play or how you contribute to the success of the show. Any of you can start.
My name is Emmanuel Clifford Jitia.
Okay.
I have been part of this production team. Very excited working with you, Grace, and others. So basically, what I do is that I help to put together the guests, make sure that they prepare. They know what they are supposed to speak about, the topic, the areas. Basically, help them prepare, record the episode. Yeah, so that has been my contribution. And once it's done, I make sure that it's published on all platforms, wherever that you get your podcast from. So from YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and the rest.
So you heard it. Clifford is the man who is like the fisherman among the team. He casts his net and makes sure that he brings us the biggest of fishes, the biggest of resource persons who can help us discuss all the topics and the issues on our mind. There's another gentleman here. He will also introduce himself and tell us how he contributes to the show.
Okay, my name is Frank Boachijan. Basically, I would say I am the editor for this podcast. Yeah, so what I actually do is I do the toppings, make sure whatever that we serve you on the table is well prepared in the kitchen. So I do the kitchen works.
So he is like the chef.
Yes.
Okay. So we have the fisherman and then we also have the chef. And for me, what do? I am the waiter or the waitress.
You serve.
I serve the food. I bring it to you. So I think our roles are perfectly defined here. It would be just right for me to begin with the producer of the show, Emmanuel. You get us the people. You do most of the work. Then we just put the fine face to it. Which of the episodes stood out for you or stands out for you? And what made it special?
That's very hard to choose, actually. Because I have a lot of episodes, right? So I can't choose one.
Yeah.
So there are two episodes that really connect with me very well. The one with Caroline,
Okay.
language choices among Tanzania Instagram users. Very, very interesting episode. She spoke about how, people in Tanzania switching between Swahili and any other language that they speak in Tanzania. And so that is very interesting. It also tried to, let us understand how, African languages plays out on digital platforms like Instagram. So that is a very interesting episode. And then I think capturing the multilingual reality in Ghana with Colin, Angela, and Elvis.
Yeah.
That was an amazing episode. I think even the production, getting those experience, researchers all the way from the UK to be able to speak to such issues.
Yeah.
Very, very amazing. I think that it also connects to me, and certain things that was mentioned in the podcast are things that I could relate to. The point about multilingual reality, so multilingualism. So it's it's a great episode with great insight, and this is something that is well researched. So they did the research and came up with those insights. And so, but I also like the Caucasus episode where she speaks about the South Africa localization guide, specifically deep dive into the localization for the South African market. I think that is also really interesting because then that is exactly what the podcast is about, letting businesses, organizations, and other people really understand what it takes to be able to enter into a particular market. But then looking at it from linguistic and cultural, perspective. And that episode is very useful, especially if you have South Africa on your mind.
Yeah, that is very true. For me, I will say that I can identify with all the episodes you mentioned, but what stood out for me, okay, maybe because I am also the host of the show, was the episode 5, which is Colin, Elvis, and then Angela. Because of the number of people we had on the show, that was the first time in this episode that we had to do more than one person. There were 3 people. And so listening to each of them, trying to understand the point each of them is making, asking follow-up questions on that, making sure that you follow through and carry the conversation, that stood out really for me. It was a bit, tiring, but also interesting, because we had diverse views and variety in the thoughts, and it was good. And also because of the point that they made by saying that your ability to speak your local language is likely to best place you to get a job to do, was very, very instructive and instrumental for me. And even in my office, where we are expected to be speaking a lot more of the English language, we always speak our own language. You speak to your colleague in your local language first before you probably become conscious and say the other thing in the English language. And so it was very interesting. It really, really was very interesting and stood out for me. And for you, our editor, how easy or how difficult was it putting together our interview? Because all 4 of us were speaking.
Yes. Actually, I think the work becomes much easier when they are well moderated or organized, Yeah. So you speak when you're supposed to. Yeah, that makes it quite easier. But when everyone tries to, say something,
at the same time,
yes,
it becomes difficult.
Quite difficult, yeah. But not the same was cool.
Yeah, that takes us to our next question. What was the most significant lesson or insight you gained from a particular episode or the series as a whole? I want to go first. For me, this language industry terrain is very new to me. in as much as I'm a media person, I didn't even know there was a language services industry, a whole body, a whole association that was doing so much and was thriving like this. And so the lesson I learned throughout the episode was that the African language has so much potential that we have not even explored yet. There's a lot more we can do with the language services industry. It provides a lot of opportunities. Anything you want to do in that industry can thrive only if you are able to do it well. And also, in as much as all the languages are different, they also have their own similarities. And for those who do the localization, you always need to bear in mind the nuances when you're doing your localization. That stood out for me. Religious nuances, social nuances, cultural nuances. You cannot say that because this worked in country A, it can work in country B. You need to be specific when dealing with any of the countries or any of the languages, even though they have their similarities. And for me, that was very instructive.
For me, my favorite episode will be the one with Omusola Omoholo.
Okay.
Yeah, that is language identity and globalization in Zulu film. Yeah, and it's let me say it will be one of.
Surprised because you are a film person.
That
exactly.
Is
so that is the episode that will speak to you the most.
Yes, and actually, whatever that she said was basically something that I've been preaching for quite some time, but maybe because I'm not up there yet, I've not been getting the right audiences. Yeah, so I believe that if we try to tell our own stories in our own languages, we are good to go. Because there is a situation whereby Hollywood comes to Africa or shoot content that are African related, and they try to speak like Africans.
Yeah.
So it should tell you that originality is key. Yes, but sometimes our people, they always want to sound like the James Bonds and the Denzel Washingtons in our films. With these huge idiomatic expressions and
English names and all.
You see,
yes.
If you do that, you're elevating someone's culture, leaving yours behind. So why don't we take this opportunity? Because filmmaking, just as she also said in her presentation, it's one other medium of projecting your cultural identity. So how can you project your culture in someone's language? I don't think, because language is also part of the culture.
Exactly.
Yes. So it will be best if we speak our languages in our films. Yeah. So I think it's advisable that we choose our African languages in our films. And one other episode that I liked, or let me say I loved, was Website Localization for African Languages with Kelvin Samuel Kluche.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, anything that projects African language, I'm in for it. Yeah. I loved that.
Yes. I also like that episode because I am used to going into a website and seeing everything there in English. But here's Kelvin telling me that you can go to a website and see Shusheha, Nkasiebo, Niekoso. And it was very fulfilling to see that I can go to the internet and find my own language there, and it will help me search. I think that's episode.
It shouldn't be all the time that you go online or on a website and English or French or something. Yeah. I think we also have to be there. Yeah.
So did you uncover any surprising facts or perspectives during your work with any of the episodes, producer?
Yeah, I think the comparative study of tone between Bonochi and Asante Twi with Belinda Misatufo.
That was our first episode?
Yes, that's episode one. I think I really liked it. I made some points. So I think, in the episode, she actually spoke about tone because she was comparing, most African languages are tonal language. So it means that it could be the same word, but however you say it, a different meaning.
In a different language.
Exactly. Yeah. And she said, unlike, stressed language like such as English, you could see that when the pitch is used, it just changes the class of the word and not its meaning.
Okay.
So in English, we could get transport, and transport.
Yeah.
So the pitch just changes the class of the of that particular word, transport, but not necessarily the meaning. But if we go to, we take three words like nam and nam, right? So one is meat, one is
sharp, or
you see, you are even adding more meaning. But another one is walk.
Walk, yes.
You understand?
Yeah.
So it depends on how you the pitch of that particular word. You are able to
yes,
get the meaning out of it. And she was going beyond not just English and then the Twi language. She is in the Akan language group and choosing Bono Twi and Asante Twi, and trying to dissect how the tonation between the two languages plays out.
Yeah.
Very, very, insightful episode, and I think I really love it.
And that thing about tonation and word stress plays a lot in the Akan language, because you can say papa and papa and papa, and all the three, they sound almost the same, have different meanings based on how you're stressing or the tone you're using.
Yeah.
Papa means is good. Papa means father. Papa also means fun. You see, so yes, I think that episode was also, it was an eye opener.
Yes.
It was, these are like words you take for granted.
Yeah.
But until somebody does this intellectual research into it, then it opens your eye into
how meaningful it is. Yeah.
You don't have to just take them
for granted
or see them as any usual words. So as a member of the team, what were some of the challenges you encountered as a member of the production team?
Okay, I wouldn't say challenges. Sometimes some challenges come your way and they put you on your toes. They rather, instead of breaking you, they build you up. I think working on this podcast has actually made me quite disciplined on some things. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Because if Mr. Emmanuel Clifford Jetien here needs an episode
to be ready
by midnight, this guy can even test you around 12 a.m. expecting that when you wake up, you have to see the message
and then
due diligence to it.
Yeah.
Yes. So, actually it has. The challenges have, let me say, actually helped me. Time has always been a factor. Yeah, sometimes you may also be on other things because we have other things that we do as well.
Yeah.
You may be on other things, and at the same time, you need to finish up with an episode and make sure it reaches the boss.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say, just as I said earlier on, I wouldn't say they are challenges. They've been a point or a way of growth for me. Yeah, so everything so far so good.
That's good to hear. Producer, yourself, you might have encountered a lot.
Oh, I think like he said, most of the things are things that's why they are a challenge anyway. Challenges are meant to be overcome.
Yeah.
So they are not really a bad thing. They are just there for us to be able to. But one of the things that has been interesting is the fact that I work with a lot of the guests.
Yes.
I reach out to a lot of guests that didn't respond to me. They didn't respond to me. Others too think that the conversations are very, very serious. That even though on our side and based on the background research that we've done on them, we think that they can fit into the type of conversations that we are having on the podcast. Probably on their side, they don't think so. So they turn down the invitation not to come to speak to us. So those are some interesting challenges that has been on there. And of course, if you look at the conversations that we are having, the guests too are limited.
Yes.
We have a limited pool of guests that resource persons that we could use. But I think it's all good. We just have to be able to expand and be able to bring in more resource people as we journey along.
That brings me to the right point to ask you how you're able to get these people to be on the show. Because each episode by episode, you surprise us with the people you bring, their rich wealth of knowledge, their in-depth understanding of the language services industry. Most of them are not even based in African countries, but you're able to get them to be on the show. How do you do this?
I think the point is that we do a lot of research with the help of all of you. Try to do research into the various topics that we want.
Yeah.
This particular season, we wanted to unearth some kind of research at the highest level that various people are conducting, both in academia and also professionally, conducting on African languages. And so, if you could see, we started with Belinda. Belinda is a linguist, a translator with Bolingo Consort. So she has a lot of experience, and she is working, doing deep research into the Akan language. So it was right, we had to, and then we build on that.
Yes.
Try to look for more people that are doing amazing research in that area. But we use a lot LinkedIn a lot, where people probably have shared their amazing profiles already. So we connect with them there and try to get them to understand what we want. And then also sometimes people that have come across the podcast itself, listen to it, and they feel like, this is an amazing platform that I need to get to.
Yeah.
And so they reach out. I'm working on this.
Interested.
Yeah.
Sure to discuss
exactly.
it. Yeah.
And then we do our background research as well to be able to determine that they really fit, and then we agree and then get them on the show. So this is how we are able to.
So it is right for me to say kudos to you and the team that does the research and the resource pooling, because it's not easy getting these people on the show. And so far, all the people we have had on this season or in this episode are top notch. And I'm also excited about the fact that we've had more women in this season more than men.
Mm-hmm.
And for somebody who is a woman, I think that, congratulations to the women. We're running the show.
Yeah, and I think Bolingo is a women-led organization, so that is plays out
right.
Yeah.
So if you just tuned in, this is the Africa Language Service Providers podcast, the Africa LSP podcast. This episode is the behind the scenes episode, because we are speaking with all the people you don't get to hear on the usual episodes, the people who make sure that we have the resource persons, we have the right people to speak to on the show. I have Emmanuel here. He is the producer of the podcast. And I also have Jan here. Jan is the technical producer also of the show. They are telling us their experiences working with us on the show, how they get the people, what they have learned so far. And I'm sure even as I'm asking them these questions, you're also answering yours while you're following us. Let us know how you feel about all of these on our various social media platforms, even as we continue the show. Let me just ask you, producer, I'm sure I'm directing all the questions, most of them to you, because you are the fisherman of the team and then the chef of the team. So let me ask, as a chef of the team, what feedback or reactions have you received from listeners? How has this shaped your understanding of the podcast's impact?
All right. Thank you for this particular question. Actually, I remember my favorite episode. That is the film Globalization. Yes, with Omuolo. Mm-hmm. Yes. I remember after that episode, I shared the link on various WhatsApp groups full of filmmakers with some gatekeepers in our industry here in Ghana. Yes.
Top-notch industry players.
Yes. Including the Deputy Creative Arts Minister. Okay. He's on one of the platforms. I shared it then. I had a call from a friend, and he was quite surprised. It seems it was new to him to see that, there's something like this that is actually happening. It looks like a lot of people do not or let me say, didn't know about such a podcast. Yeah, so getting such a feedback taught me that then I think I need to do more than just editing the podcast. Yeah. So I've been helping with the publicity. Yeah. So the moment Mr. Producer here gets us or feed us with the link, I also make sure that based on the topic that is being discussed, I know
where to put it, which platform to
share on. Yeah. Because, I used to be a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah. So like the ladies on the first episode, what's her name? Belinda's on. Yeah, I shared on some of the NAT teachers platforms and ICT teachers and language teachers.
Okay.
They have their WhatsApp platform. I made sure I shared
with them
too, so that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Yeah, and always, I think your biggest tool should be knowledge or information. Yeah. So with this podcast, I think it has helped in that direction.
And for me, I would say that the feedback I have received, it is a unique. What I get most of the time is people say, "Oh, it's a unique kind of podcast because now we have a lot of podcasts and all of them are about family and relationship and who has cheated on who and all of that." So if there's a podcast that's talking about language, but not just any other language, but the African language and the wonderful things people are doing in it, then it's a good thing, or it's a good podcast. The episodes or the series that got me a lot of feedback or interaction was the one on the use of local language in films because of the mention of the movies. I think Omoholo mentioned the Black Panther. She also mentioned Shaka Zulu. These are people that we know. And so when I put it out there, people were really interested in it. And also the one about Tanzania.
Language choices among Tanzanian Instagram users.
It's resonated with a lot of people because even here in Ghana, you see a lot of people writing now in their local languages on the social media.
Yeah, which I normally do.
Yes, and we all ascribe to that. We all enjoy that, and so it was good. And then I think Colin and the others, their episode was also, it got me a lot of feedback because people were even surprised that why would they be interested in how we use our local languages in our local forms of employment and how it affects your ability to get a job to do. And so, yes, it also really got me a lot of feedback. I think people love the podcast. It can only get better as we go on and do more about it. Yeah. Producer.
Yeah.
What your perspective with
No, I think that for me, the feedback has been from students.
Okay.
I have received, we always say if you have feedback, blah, 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 write to podcast. Yeah. And I see that particular email. And people write, I needed some resources or ideas about some paper I'm writing. He said he's a student and the podcast was useful because then the perspective that are being shared are things that, and all the episodes comes with reference, kind of materials or points. So we add links to the works that these experts are doing. And so after listening to them, you follow the link to be able to read more about the work that they are doing and you get an in-depth understanding of it. And so that has been one interesting, kind of feedback, especially people that are learning in the various universities in doing certain masters or PhD in African languages or African studies in general, and they really need to get some understanding. So, it has been a great reference, material for students.
For students.
Yeah.
Well, so if you haven't listened to any of the episodes yet, the producer just told you it has been a great reference material for students. You don't want to miss out on the pool of knowledge that we have shared on this season from the first episode right up until now. Just log on the show. Any of the episodes will serve you a purpose. Don't miss out on any of the episodes so far. We've been doing 12 episodes since the year began. This is the 12th episode. How has this shaped you? How has this shaped your course over the last episodes as a producer, as an anchor, as a technical producer? What skills have you developed?
The podcast has really been helpful. Basically, every episode I learn something new. Though I may not need everything there, but I always get some line that I think, oh, I can go home with this. Yes, and I do the listening more because I have to listen to everything, edit, listen again, because this man sitting on my right, if you send it to him and you miss something, just a single thing, he will bring it back. You correct it. And sometimes, even after correcting that, he will come back again with, other mistakes as well.
Yeah,
so you are not free until the thing is published.
So are you saying he's very difficult to please?
Oh, he's not difficult to please, but I think, I think he always wants the best.
Yes.
He always wants the best.
He's a perfectionist.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, and I just never come.
No, me a perfectionist. So I don't want that title.
But for the purposes of the wide audience that we are serving, we can only make sure that we are giving them the best.
He initially said this. Ask yourself why some guests, some proposed guests, or let me say potential guests, should I say run away from?
We say they will come because it's too serious.
It's too serious.
They don't
because they are I think you have to be careful with what you are putting out there because you are trying to inform, and if you inform wrongly, you are going to cause damage to your listeners and also damage to yourself as well.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, it's going to be said that Bolingo did this mess.
And we don't want our name to be associated with anything of that sort.
Never. No negativity around Bolingo Consult. So as I said earlier on, this podcast has really helped and let me say shaped me in terms of working on time, my discipline around time.
Work ethics.
That is it, yes. So it has really been helpful and we don't stop learning. Yes. So it's good to be here.
Okay. Producer, how has your role as a producer evolved over the course of the entire season? What skills have you developed?
Yeah, I think interestingly, I've read a lot of profiles and a lot of research articles and basically works that people have done.
Yeah.
And, reading them, of course, reading means you are learning from those resources. And so sometimes very tedious, but I've read a lot. Some things that I never, imagine myself reading. I have to read them. Be sure, read about a person, be sure, and then I can now write to the person. And so that information, and of course, not all the information or things that I've read have made it to be part of the conversations on the podcast. So if the podcast itself is as rich as this, then you can imagine, the ones that never made it. And these are things that they are in my head. I don't know if my head will break.
It's your best.
they are. I just have to read all of them. So insightful stuff that I've gained from working on this season.
Personally, I thought I was a good listener until I got on the show. Because this, like I initially said, the language services industry is so new to me. And here am I speaking to people who are well-versed into this industry, having conversations with them, and they expect that I have an idea of what they are talking about, and they expect that I'm able to follow the conversation. And so I have developed another level of listening to people and these conversations, trying to understand what they're saying. And even sometimes their tone, their accent, you might not hear a word of what they're saying, but you have to make sure that you understand the import of what they're saying, carry the conversation along, try and ask them questions that you think will be interesting and exciting to your listeners. Put yourself in the shoes of your audience. The number of people that who are listening to us, I have to represent each and every one of us and make sure I'm asking the questions that are relevant to them. And I think if there's any skill I've developed in the last 1 year as being part of this show, then it is the ability to listen, to understand, and get the import out of what somebody's saying. And for that, I am very grateful to Bolingo, and I'm very grateful to Bolingo and the entire team. Thank you for the opportunity to get to learn about the language service industry and all the good work that the wonderful people in there are doing about it. So, producer, my next question will go to you. What keeps you so passionate about the topic of language service providers in Africa? And how has this podcast contributed to your own understanding and appreciation of the industry? You are already an industry person. Yeah.
I'm also... well, I'm not extremely a newbie, but so there are a lot of things to learn.
Yeah.
But the industry itself is hidden in a way. It's not really like, say, the legal or the media industry that is
that's what
really popular. One of the greatest people in the industry, his name is Renato Beninato, and he put this into perspective that, the major thing that we do in the language industry is translation. And translation is just like a toilet paper. When it is there, we don't place much value on it. It's just there. It's just toilet paper. But when you do the thing, and after you are done, you don't get a toilet paper. That's when you see the value of a toilet paper. And so that is...
Take that quote again.
So one of the greatest resource persons in the industry, his name is Renato Beninato. And he says that translation is just like a toilet paper. When it is there, no one places much value on it. But when you do that thing and you don't get toilet paper, that's when you feel how important it is. Yeah, so I have been in meetings even before, coming into this industry. I used to work in the development sector, and sometimes you go for meetings, and the meetings are, there are people who don't speak the language.
Who need translation.
Yes, they need that. And sometimes they don't get it. And if they don't get it and they get the opportunity to take their mic, they speak their language, and everybody also gets frustrated.
Because you also don't understand what they're saying.
Exactly. And so at that moment, there's a lot of frustration, and everybody thinks that, should I have gotten someone to interpret, someone to help? But when there is an interpreter there, everybody thinks that, this person is not, it's a normal thing that is being done. Yeah. And we don't really realize that most of the things that we consume are translated or translation. I've gone through translation, right? A typical example is our own Bible.
Yeah.
The Bible was written in Hebrew and Greek, and later on translated into all the languages that probably we have now. And so that should tell you the power of the industry. And the industry has been a backbone for international communication, but even community level communication. All the things that the knowledge that we want to pass from one point to the other, they are all, facilitated by language, professionals. Yeah. And so, for me, this gives me a lot of, passion for the work that we do. And then, of course, also to see the growth of the industry. Because without it, it will be very difficult for Africans to thrive. We may be doing things in our own corners, but without the help of language professionals, it will be very difficult to, achieve more.
Dan, what gives you the passion to want to be in the language services industry?
Yes.
And even as a filmmaker, how do you marry the two?
Yes. Actually, I'm an African language enthusiast. Being a language enthusiast, I think working in the language services has actually helped me to even broaden my knowledge or ideas about the services more. Because now, if I'm to speak to someone about the benefits and let me say the importance of having these kind of services, I'll have enough knowledge to, be able to enlighten the person more on its impact.
Exactly.
Yes, rather than before I can just say, maybe we can communicate easily or whatever. But now it's not just about talking to you saying A and I will say B and no.
Yeah.
Communication is broad, and language is not just words or creating of sounds or something. Yes, we like our way of life speaks about everything, and I think finding myself here has really helped, and it's even going to help me more in my field as a filmmaker. Yes, so I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah, I think I would say that listening to what people are doing and the fact that there's a group of people, where a body of professionals who have dedicated themselves to want to promote the African language gives me some form of joy. To also tell me that I have to have that passion and then do what I can also do in my small or little way to promote the language. And for me, I think that one is very instructive or very, very instrumental for me. So this is the final episode for this season of the Africa Language Service Providers podcast. And I'm speaking with the gentlemen behind the scenes, the people you don't see, but the people who do all the work. Emmanuel is the producer of this podcast, and Jan is a technical producer of this podcast. They are letting us into themselves, into what they do, how they contribute to the show, and of course, will tell us what the plans are for the next season or for next year. So, Jan, let me start with you. Then the producer can tell us the broad or the long term or the short term or the medium term plans for next year. Jan, as a technical producer of the show, what should we expect from you next year? Or what are your plans for the podcast going forward?
I'm hoping that we reach more audiences. Yes, that is my major things that I'm expecting or hoping for. Yes, that for us to reach, the marginal, size of audiences. Yes, and also I'm hoping that maybe people who are expected to also be on this podcast will not be shying away from our producer's calls. Yes.
Producer, what should we expect from you going forward, the future of the podcast?
Okay, so I think, like Jan mentioned, we hope to do more in promotion. I think one of the things that has been very fulfilling is the fact that we know those that are in the industry takes this platform very serious and they listen. And the industry players really, really like the fact that there is constant conversations about the industry that we hold very, high.
Yeah.
And so we will continue and not just focus on the people in the industry, but try to bring in more extra people that probably may be interested. Another point is that we have been doing the audio version for the 4th year.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a conversation, and I think that we have to, get into the video version.
Yay. So for those of you who have been wondering the faces behind the voice, very soon you're going to see our faces.
Yeah.
Beautiful faces, handsome faces. You are going to get to see all of us. You don't just get to hear our voices, but you'll be seeing us in action. I think I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
How soon is that happening though?
Oh, I mean, we are looking into season 5. So season 5, of course, we just have to put things in place and
great
and then get started.
I like that.
I mean, this is conversation that
will be coming with clothing allowance and all of that. That is just to scare the producer. That was just to scare you, producer. Please continue.
Yeah, so I think this is a conversation that we've had in the past. So it's good that we take it up and see how best we can do that. So that looks like what will happen in 2025, the season 5.
Yeah. And I realized that this season was also heavy on various research topics and all. Are we continuing to the next season, or be looking at a new horizon or a new area for the podcast?
We will do a mix. We will still like to explore the conversations around research, because research is the backbone of knowledge, and so if this platform is for knowledge sharing, then we definitely need to have that. Continue with that. But then next season we would like to get more also of some industry players, top players that have been on the podcast in the past. So season 1, season 2, there were some top, industry players that spoke. Probably we would just like to bring them back. Now that we will do video, bringing them back, we'll also put in some extra kind of vibe into the conversation.
Yes. So the next year 2025, season 5 promises to be very interesting, very interactive. It is like vibe on vibe in the next season, because you get to see me, and probably I also get to see you. And it'll enrich the conversation and then take us away from just you listening to our voices and imagining how we look. But now you get to see us. And also, we bring you a lot more interesting content. And so you don't want to miss out on the 5th season, which is year 2025. It has been an interesting year, and I've enjoyed myself on the show. I hope you have also enjoyed yourself on the show, from the first episode to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and now we're here. This is the final episode. I think it is just right for us to say Merry Christmas, because yes, we're getting into the season already.
Afishapa.
Okay.
Afishapa.
Afishapa. How do you let people understand what Afishapa is?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas in our.
What do you say? You speak a bit of Swahili?
I say many. my Swahili has not reached that level.
Season greetings, because
you should have told me. I would have asked my Swahili teacher.
Swahili is a language we have spoken most on the show.
Yes.
Swahili.
Most of the, and of course, it's also the most popular, African language. As the African language that has been adopted by the AU as an official language, working language in the AU. So, if we really want to speak on African languages, then of course, it's always right that we have a lot of Swahili people passing through here and there.
We have spoken a lot of Swahili on the show.
Yeah.
And so we say, Asante Sana.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Asante Sana.
That's one we cannot forget.
Asante Sana. Because of the Asante, we cannot even forget.
And Asante is a tribe in Ghana.
Yeah.
Yes, we say Asante. It's Asante. It has been a bit modernized adopted to become Ashanti. But the real word is Asante.
Yeah.
Yes. So Asante Sana. Thank you all for joining us throughout the year, from our very first episode to the last one. Producer will help us with all the names of the guests we have had on the show. I think it is just right that we appreciate all of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So on the first episode, we had Belinda Misatufuo, who is currently doing her master's at the University of Education. We also had Mary Mawiya Nanafi,
yes.
Project Manager at Bolingo Consult. Christiana Abwaji.
Yes.
She is that is episode 3, the ACA's coordinator.
Yes.
Yeah,
I remember.
So she has been doing a lot of work. Caroline, for episode 4, she spoke about the language choices among Tanzanian Instagram users. Yeah, and then we had the big 3, actually. It was 3, Angela, Colin, and Elvis that spoke to us about capturing the multilingual reality in Ghana. Website localization for African languages with Calvin Samuel Luce. And then we had Omosola Omoholo, language, identity, and globalization in Zulu film. And then we also would like to appreciate from Abdi Kadir Hassan Yusuf.
Yeah.
Best practices for Somali language localization. And I think that was also another amazing episode where we looked at the Horn of Africa and how Somali has become very influential language in that. And then Dr. Masizerano Wycliffe, Swahili as a trade language for the EAC, the East African Community. I think that is also another interesting episode.
Very interesting. He made an assertion in that episode. When he spoke about a teacher who went to their country.
A teacher from DRC that came to Rwanda that wanted to teach. And then they said, now they don't have a maths or something.
He wanted to teach maths and integrated science or something.
And then the school said they didn't need that. And then the school said they rather looking for Kinyarwanda teachers. And the guy said, I can teach Kinyarwanda.
I love that. I really love it. Because it's something that we've been practicing and it's not really helping us.
And then the 10th episode, we had Almighty Franca Umasue Igwe.
Okay.
She very innovative approach to
Ekpeye language.
Yes, Ekpeye language. Yes.
And then the last but one was Kaukazi Filaku.
Yeah.
South Africa localization. So amazing guests, great profile, very insightful conversations, and we really appreciate all of them.
Thank you so much to all of our guests. We really appreciate you for sharing your insights with us. And just as we've said, the next season promises to be better than what we've brought you. We're making sure that we are going into video. We are also bringing back some of the top industry players we've already had on the show. Have a refresher, look into what they have done from the last years we spoke to, and then how best you and I can tap from this. So this has been the Africa Language Service Providers Podcast, the Africa LSP Podcast. I've been speaking with Emmanuel and John. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves again, and then we're out of here.
So my name is Emmanuel Clifford Jetian. Thank you.
All right, and I am Frank Boachijan.
Okay, so Emmanuel is the producer of the show, and then Frank is the technical producer of the show. And as always, my name is Grace Hamu-Ajuman. Until we come your way again next year with the 5th season, thank you for spending the last 12 months with us. We'll see you again when we see you. It's bye-bye and Merry Christmas.
Official Pao.
Asante Sana from all of us. Yeah, Afesania Tinko means we're hoping to still be alive by next year.
Yes.
So, see you all. It's Asante Sana from all of us. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Africa's LSP podcast. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and learned something new. For feedback or enquiries, reach out to us at podcast@bolingoconsult.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite platforms. Until next time, stay curious and keep growing.